Welcome to this week's edition of Warrior Weekly. I'm Lukas DeGarmo alongside Travis Whipple. And Travis, you recently just got back from Atlanta, Georgia. You went down to the NCAA convention.
Yeah, a tremendous event hosted by the NCAA, and it really has so much importance each year because of the legislation that's voted on and approved by all the member institutions.
And talking about gymnastics, first going to Winona State Athletics, they're on a roll, 2-0 to start off the season.
Yeah, doing a tremendous job, and Coach Becky Robecki was on our All Access show last week and talked about some of the youth that they have, some of the new routines, and she really kind of couldn't believe it where they are at this point in the season, and certainly had some great results in their last meet. Had the all-around individual champion. They won the balance beam and then had the second place finish in the uneven bar. So a tremendous job as a team.
They're 2-0. Their next meet for the women's gymnastics team is January 21st at 7 o'clock at Gustavus up in the cities. Women's basketball, going to that now. They were 1-1 on the last homestand. They're going on the road this weekend, but they beat Wayne and lost to Augustana the next night, the same as the men, actually. Looking at that first game against Wayne State, got a great team win, and surprisingly, and head coach Scott Ballard was surprised by this in our post-game show on the radio, Anna Wirtz held to 0 points, and they still came away with a W.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often, and I think it was like 76 straight games where she scored at least a basket or a point. And oddly enough, last time it happened was against Wayne State. So they play that zone and they've got a lot of length, so they're a very difficult matchup and a very good team. Maybe you can help out a little bit. As I was in Atlanta, I was listening to KQAL and following on WinonaStateWarriors.com. But it seemed like an excellent run in the second half for Winona State to kind of get over the hump there. It was a very back-and-forth game in the first half and came away with a critical conference win.
Yeah, 71-67 was the final score, and as you mentioned, they went on a great run in the second half, and it was a team win. We talked about Anna Wirtz being held to no points. When you can get a W when your best player doesn't have any points, that really can unify a team and just show you that, you can't rely on just one player, because sometimes, they just don't have it that night, and you got to have other players step up, and that's exactly what happened. You're
exactly right. You got to have it's a team effort, and the more that you can have in double figures, the better. I thought Michelle McDonald statistically played well on the weekend, both games, and as well as Katie Wolf and Natalie Gigler contributing both in double figures.
You mentioned Michelle McDonald. In the loss to Augustana the next night, the Warriors lost 71-84. Michelle McDonald had a double-double, 18 points and 12 boards.
Yeah, she's been tough all year long, and really somebody they need to continue to look to inside, and obviously has owned the boards for the team. Like you mentioned, 12 rebounds. That's outstanding, and they got to continue to have that. And Katie Wolf also came up in double figures again on the weekend in the loss with 13 points, and Dulas doing her typical thing, creating and getting the assists, and she had 10 assists. So, another I thought good all-around team effort. Augustana was just the better team on that night and went on that 17-4 run in the second half, which really kind of they pulled away a little bit towards the end.
And Molly Hayes was the big player for Augie, and she ended up getting the NSIC Conference Player of the Week on the women's side of basketball.
Well-deserved on her part. In both of the games this weekend, scored over 20 points and really shot the ball well. So kudos to her.
Looking over to the men now, both the men and women go to Moorhead and Crookston this weekend. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But the men's basketball team, like the women, also split 1-1, beating Wayne State and then losing to Augustana. They beat Wayne State 67-63, moved to 6-4 in the conference. A much-needed win, I think, for the Warrior men.
Yeah, much-needed win, and we hear it all the time from Brady Moore, the assistant coach on the post-game press conference. You got to take care of business at home, and they did it on Friday night and won kind of a defensive struggle with Wayne State and really had to slug it out. I thought Xavier Humphrey really played some good D down the stretch, and they got a nice lift from him. He's doing a tremendous job this year, obviously a freshman and playing beyond his years. But the other thing was they had 4 players that scored in double figures, and I think that's key for them to continue to get that balance and not just David Johnson scoring, but a bunch of guys contributing.
And that's exactly what Brady said in the post-game interview after the Wayne State game. That's the kind of stat line that they like to see as coaches. They love when David Johnson goes off and scores 30-plus points, but they'd much rather see 4 guys having 12 to 15 points a game.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. You know, the more balance you can have, especially with the talent in this league, the more that you have in double figures, the better off you're going to be, and it's going to pay off down the road.
The Warrior men then fell to Augustana by 4 points, 88-84. The late rally, they trailed by 15 points to just under the 10-minute mark in the second half. They came up a little bit short. Johnson did all he could. He had 31 points in the game and, got him back in it in the final few minutes, hit a couple of big threes back-to-back. But Augustana, they led the whole game, and they were a good basketball team, and the Warriors couldn't, they couldn't pull out the win at the end.
Couldn't pull it off at the end. Augustana, certainly hats off to them, a good ball club, and a lot coming back from last year. It's kind of the way it's been going for the men a little bit. They take their foot off the gas for a few plays, and that makes a huge difference. They did have the late rally. It wasn't quite enough to get the Vikings.
Yeah, it wasn't. And this weekend, as I mentioned, the Warrior men and women travel to Moorhead for the Friday night game at 6 and 8, and then Crookston on Saturday up in northern Minnesota. So a big road weekend for the Warriors. Hopefully the Warrior men and women can come back with 4 wins.
Yeah, hopefully next week on the show we'll be talking about 4 wins. That's a tough road trip. A lot of miles to travel, and you play at Moorhead on Friday night, and then you got to get on the bus, go Friday night, and stay in Crookston, and that it's a difficult travel. And both teams are very good, as we saw at Hoops Fest, an improved Crookston team for both the men and the women.
Track and field now for Winona State. Outstanding meet. They won at the Eau Claire Blue Gold Invitational.
Yeah, they're having a fantastic indoor season already. The throwers are doing a tremendous job, but you also look at Kelly Shaw, who won the 400 meter sprints, her first career meet, and then Mary Tyson won the shot put. So it's really been a combination. We've heard already about a lot of the throwers and their qualifying marks for provisionally for NCAA play, but the team is just doing outstanding together.
And next up for the track and field team, they travel to the University of Wisconsin in Madison on January 23rd. And that's all for this week's edition of Warrior Weekly. For Travis Whipple, I'm Lukas DeGarmo. It's a great day to be a Warrior.